I'm Lori George with Let's Make Art, and welcome to our Acrylic Beginner Series. First, I'm going to give you an overview of what types of supplies you might need when you're beginning to paint with acrylic. We have our paints, we have our surfaces, or substrates, something to paint on, and then we also have palettes, things for us to put our paint on as we paint. And then we have some other supplies that I'll share as well, palette knives, brushes, and a few other things. So let's get started. So first, I'm going to talk about the different types of acrylic paint. And actually, Keena, do you know what acrylic paint is?
Only because I read some notes from you, but no, not really.
Okay, so acrylic paint is basically pigment and a binding agent. And so
that is not what I read.
That is not what you read. Okay.
I have no idea.
So there's different types of acrylic paint and different viscosities, which basically means thicknesses or consistencies that I'll go over. So first we have your cream of the crop, your heavy body paint. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like. It has a very thick consistency and is highly pigmented. And it's kind of about the consistency of maybe like a creamy peanut butter, if you see there.
But not tasty.
No, don't need that. Then we also have more of a soft body type of paint for acrylic. So I'll kind of put that next to it. This one is kind of in between a soft body and a heavy body. And is a professional, these are both professional grade, artist grade paints.
Oh, wow.
And in addition to the kind of the peanut butter consistency, there's also a soft body consistency or like a student grade type paint. Let me show you what that looks like. And this is probably more like a custard or a mayo, something like that. Yep.
Okay.
So that's what we have there. And I'll kind of show too, like you can kind of see how that one spreads there. And these are a little bit thicker. I might even show this one as well. Your heavy body paints. And sometimes depending on the brand, there's a big difference in the quality of your paint, and other times you might not notice quite as much of a difference. Another consistency that acrylic paint comes in is fluid. So this is good for, of course the lid's not taken off, let me fix that. These are good when you really want a nice thin consistency. You can see there that it's much more of a liquid or a cream, like a heavy cream there. Kind of spread that out a little bit. See that? Okay. So those are the main types of acrylic paint as far as consistency goes. There's also one of my favorite things, acrylic gouache. So what this is, you may have heard of gouache before, which is an opaque paint that's similar to watercolor, where you can add a lot of water to it and it can be transparent or add a lot of water to it to thin it out, or it can be used a little thicker. So this is an acrylic gouache, which means the main difference with acrylic is that it's going to be permanent. It's not going to lift up again like watercolor or regular gouache would.
Because gouache you can reactivate.
Yes, and acrylic, and I should probably talk about some of the properties of acrylic. So acrylic dries quickly. It is permanent and light fast. So a couple things to think about with that is, be careful not to get it on things that you don't want it on. And when it comes to brushes, you want to make sure that you wash your paint out before it dries. So those are kind of the types of acrylic paints that I use the most often. And let me show you one type of acrylic paint that you might be more familiar with is this type of paint. It's like a craft type paint. They're readily available and fairly inexpensive. And if you can look here, you'll see the consistency is quite thinner. And when I spread it out, it is a little more clear. So when you have your professional grade, student grade, and more of your craft grade paints, you can start to see a little bit of the differences. Some of the main differences, your heavy body paints are going to be your thicker paints. They're going to have the most body to them, and they're going to be your most highly pigmented artist grade paints. Your student grade or soft body paints are going to be a little less pigmented, same pigments, but more filler. So more filler and binding agents in there as opposed to highly concentrated pigment. And that matters when you are mixing colors and wanting to retain the vibrancy of the pigments. And I'll show you that here in a minute.
Yes.
Okay, so here's your fluid paint. This fluid paint is an artist grade paint, but it's a different type of viscosity or consistency where it's thinner. And then of course, here's the acrylic wash. It's a bit thicker and has an opaque sheen. And then here's your craft paint. I don't personally recommend craft paint for this type of acrylic painting because I think you're gonna want more highly pigmented colors to be able to mix and really have vibrant paintings. And so I would recommend getting the quality of paint that you can comfortably afford to use generously. You know, so get the paint that you feel like you're not going to be too stingy with or precious with, that you can use readily, because the more that you can paint, the more you're going to learn, and the faster that you'll grow. So that is my recommendation. When you go to mix some of your craft paints together, you get more desaturated look, and obviously you can tell here it's less opaque. So I would recommend at least a high quality student grade paint. And if you want to go for the heavy body paint, the artist grade paint, go for it. That's my favorite.
Nice.
Okay, so moving on from paints, and I was going to say too, you know, as you can see here, acrylic paint can come in a lot of different packages. Like sometimes you have these tubs here that you can use a palette knife and dip into those. You have bottles, and then some pouches.
I love those pouches.
They're kind of neat, huh?
Yeah, they're neat.
Kind of neat. That's a metallic.
Makes me think of applesauce. Like kids' applesauce packets.
Just don't eat it.
Yeah.
Just don't eat it.
There's another food item not to eat.
Exactly. So yeah, there are so many options for acrylic paints when you come to different sheens, iridescents and metallics and really bright neon colors or fluorescent colors. Yeah, but this is a nice sampling. So besides paint, you're gonna want something to paint on. One of the best things about acrylic paint is that you can paint on almost anything. It's very versatile, and as long as it's a surface that is porous enough to hold the paint, for the paint to adhere to, you can paint on it. So you might be familiar with canvases. This one is a thinner canvas, and it's pre-stretched and pre-gessoed that I painted on, and here's a smaller version with a thicker edge. I love painting on pre-stretched canvases. That's probably my go-to. Another option for acrylic painting is paper. And with acrylic paint, you're gonna want to use a paper that can really hold up to the weight of the acrylic paint, because acrylic paint is a water-based medium. And so you're gonna add water to it to thin it. You're going to have a lot of I guess, liquid in there. And so you want a nice sturdy paper to hold up to it. And so I recommend either at least a 140-pound weight watercolor paper. And so here's our LMA paper here in a couple different sizes. Those are great. I love to paint on paper.
Nice.
Yes. A couple other things real quick. Here's a birch board. So this is basically just a wood board that's fun to paint on. You know, the main difference between this and a canvas is that it has a smooth surface. Obviously it's made of wood, hopefully, also. But it has a nice smooth surface, and sometimes you can, like if I were to use like a fluid acrylic on there, I might be able to even see the grain through there, which is kind of just a
that would be cool.
Yeah. So those are a couple of things. And then one of the other things I really like to paint on are sketchbooks. So this is a sketchbook here. And the nice thing about this sketchbook is that it has 140-pound watercolor paper in it. And so a lot of sketchbooks, it's kind of harder to find like a thicker weight, and you can use a thinner weight, you know, for your sketchbook. That's totally fine within reason, but the thicker pages are nice. Yeah, so that's what I like. Okay, so besides something to paint on, we need a palette, something to put our paint on as we paint. There are a lot of options for palettes. I've seen people use everything from cardboard to paper plates to foam plates, like all sorts of things, and you know, use what you've got. Here are a couple of my favorite options though, or a couple options that we also carry on our website. So the first I'll show you might be familiar with if you are part of our kids program. This is a plastic palette. The pros is that it's lightweight, inexpensive. The cons, these are kind of hard to clean with acrylic paint. If you let it stick on there too long, you might have to do some scraping, but it's a pretty good option. Then we also have, you might also be familiar with our butcher trays here. This is a ceramic butcher tray. Pros would be that this is something that you're going to use over and over again, and you won't be wasting anything. Cons, I think these are a little bit tricky to clean as well with acrylic paint, but give it a try. You might be fine. Oh, and one suggestion that we had too is that with our next option here, which is a paper palette.
This one blows my mind.
Okay, so this is, and I'm gonna rip this sheet off. What this is a stack of disposable palettes. It's basically paper that is coated on one side so that the paint doesn't sink in to the paper and dry quickly, so it'll let it dry more slowly. And one idea someone had was to cut this to size, obviously, and then you could put it inside of your butcher tray. Or if you have a large butcher tray, you could put that in there as well. But otherwise, you can, this is probably what I use most, like at home. And I usually just rip the cover off and then have it right there.
See, and I had never seen that before you came in. And
Isn't
it's
that
been
cool?
amazing to watch you use it. Because it's like, well, it's paper.
It's paper. And when you're done, you can just throw it away.
Yeah.
Or some people will let it dry and then throw it away, but some people might even collage with their palettes or keep them because they're just pretty. Some of my palettes are kind of pretty, and I'm like, I kind of want to look at that longer. And actually, at my house, I actually use multiple palettes because I might have like my cool colors on one and my warm colors on another, so that I don't mix them together to get too many muddy colors. And then the creme de la creme is this glass palette. Pros on this one, it's also reusable, so no waste. I love the big size because I like to spread out and work and really not be limited by my space, but we do also have a smaller version, which is really nice as well. These are, to clean these, you would take some water and spray it down. This is a continuous spray bottle, by the way. We have these on our website. You spray it, let it soak in for a little bit, and then you can take a scraper or like a razor blade and you can scrape off the paint and throw the paint into the trash.
Incredibly convenient.
Yes. So those are the types of palettes that we have. So a couple other things, you see me here, these are palette knives. Palette knives come in different like shapes, and as you can tell, these are your plastic palettes, which I mostly use plastic palettes for, say, if I have a jarred paint and I want to scoop some out and put it on my palette, I would use one of these palette knives, or sometimes if I'm mixing colors, I would use one of these. But my favorite is the metal palette knives because, one, they're very sturdy, and two, they can really hold up to a lot of pressure. So if I'm painting on a canvas or I just really am getting into my painting, I love having the metal. And also, Keenan, wait for it.
Okay.
You can scratch in with these.
That is.
You can really create a lot of texture with this metal palette knife that you can't quite do with plastic.
No.
So yeah, so those are palette knives. A couple other things that you might consider having in your acrylic stash would be brushes, obviously, but we're actually going to talk about those in the next segment.
Oh snap.
Yes.
Multiple segments.
I like having, like I said, I like having this continuous spray bottle. One thing about acrylic paint is, yes, it dries quickly, which is great when you're painting because you may want to paint layers and you can keep moving along quickly, as opposed to oils, which take a long time to dry. But they also dry quickly on your brushes and on your palettes. And so one thing I like to do is just spray to keep it nice and wet, and then my paint won't dry out as fast while I'm working.
Wow.
So this is a great product, a great little handy tool to have. And then a couple other things that I personally really like. You'll want water. When you're using acrylic paint, you can add water to your paint to get a nice thin, nice consistency, whatever consistency that you're wanting to get. So I can add water to thin this down. And so with that, you've probably seen you can use jars or some sort of water container where you can rinse your brush out. I love these brush basins because if you can look down in here, you can see down in here, it has ridges. And so when I go to, let me get some paper too, actually. I like to wipe off my paint. I use a little brush board to kind of get off my excess paint, but then you can go in here and you can use these ridges to help get the paint out of the brush.
Cool.
Yeah. So there you go.
See, that thing's handy.
It is handy. And then like on this side, I can kind of, if there's some paint that gets up near the ferrule of the brush, I can wash it off there. And then you'll want something like a paper towel, or my favorite are shop towels. These are great. And what I will do is I'll use a shop towel to dry, kind of dab off, or sometimes I'll wipe off excess paint on a shop towel, but I keep these and I use them again. So like I let them dry out. And then when it's dry, I'll use it again, even if it has paint on it. So for me, like it's a good solution because it's nice and thick, and I feel like I'm getting more use out of it than just kind of throwing it away like a regular paper towel. So these are the main supplies that you might want to have in your acrylic stash, and we will talk more about brushes in the next part 2 of our beginner series.